Hello, Glen Lake staff. Happy Thursday. Happy Earth Day. Hope your day is going well. As I look at tomorrow's time together for our staff meeting and the items I'm hoping to connect with you all on, it definitely seems like time will run short. So, after consulting with a couple individuals, I figured a brief little screencast, maybe identifying and talking about some of those smaller items that we don't have to address tomorrow, will help with our time. So, a few things to talk about. The first thing is just want to let everybody know some items that are on the elementary principals agenda meetings moving forward. The first of which is grading and report card. We know that that's a topic that many teachers are challenged with the current report card and how it's not reflective of daily work and what students are really focusing on. And I can share with you that sentiment is definitely shared across many portions of our system. Administration, principals, teachers across all sites have shared that very similar feedback. So what I asked our leadership team to do this morning is to go back to your teams and just ensure or to share with me what your idea is as a team for grading and reporting as we end the school year here. What would be the best situation for how you can share feedback with families about the students that you have. So we have that meeting on Monday for elementary principals. So I know it's a short turnaround, but if you're able to connect with your team and share that feedback with me, that will help us come to a decision on that. The second thing is distance learning academy schedule, end of the year schedule. So there's some proposals out there for how best to end the year for distance learning, knowing that once those devices are turned in for distance learning, their year then is done. And so what would give an appropriate amount of time and what are some possibilities? So we need to be completely aligned system-wide across all elementary sites on that. So again, I've asked some distance learning teachers to talk with each other on what you think would work best for that, what would be some ideas, and I can bring those ideas to the meeting on Monday and see if we can come with an aligned schedule for the end of the year. And the last item is the larger one, and that's questions that I know many people are having around different job postings that are coming up. I know Brady Felice just sent out an email as well identifying those postings and kind of providing a little bit of background information on that. So I just want to make sure that I give information around those roles and where those are funded from to help people understand that a little bit better. So I guess just to start is knowing that each site, as was shared with the budget screencast a little while ago, was each site has their own dollars that they receive through compensatory and discretionary, and as well as Title I, as well as achievement and integration. So those are different buckets of money that each school has, and that varies site to site depending, a lot of which depends on free and reduced lunch population. So when you see a posting come through from a site and that role isn't found here at Glen Lake, please know that is that site's decision. So that site can create a role. They're not going to the district and asking for money for this position. It's very transparent now what each site has. That can be found in that screencast. So each site has their money, and principals in collaboration oftentimes with their leadership team or through other identifying needs can create positions to meet that site's needs. So that's definitely a shift. So when we see one position over here and we don't see it at Glen Lake, it's because that site has decided to create a position to meet a need. So a couple at Glen Lake that you saw that came through today was the Restorative Practices Coordinator. That is a role that we had to post that will be replacing the role of the Student Support Specialist. Very similar. Job description is slightly different. But with what Mark does every single day, that role. What I've always talked about Mark to my colleagues and to other sites and to leadership is he is doing that role already. And I know not all sites are in that space. So I'd like to say that role was very similar to what Mark is already doing. So that's the equivalent of that. And then you saw a personalized learning coach. So that is funded through Achievement and Integration Dollars, A&I. And that is federal funds. And again, each site receives a certain amount of dollars from A&I. And that role is in order to use achievement and integration, that role really needs to be a high majority of student-facing role. So if you look at the job description, it's going to involve looking at school-wide data. It's going to involve assistance or participation on the student assistance team, as well as delivering targeted intervention to that tier 2 and tier 3 students. So that role is, if you want to make a comparison, it's probably the closest thing would be to the learning support teacher that Barb Fishman was in a few years ago, but elevated to more of a school-wide coaching, not only of teachers, but also mainly of supporting students, as kind of taking that MTSS lead. So that's the position that will be funded out of achievement and integration. So I think a question that exists is why do we need to create these different positions? Sorry, my light went off. These different job titles and different descriptions. And it's very important to know that when you are trying to transform a system and our growth towards Vision 2031 and what we need to do to change is important to look at everything that we do in our system, and look at it with a fine-tooth, magnifying glass, whatever you call it. You need to look at the language that we use, practices that we do, systems that we have in place. So when we look at these job titles and these job descriptions, those are very, very important to make sure we are aligned with everything that we are trying to achieve. So, when you see those positions, they're not just magically coming out of this huge bucket of money. They are coming from site-based funds. And so if you have a question about why this building has this position, why we don't, I really encourage you. I can't plead enough to please come and ask me questions. I'm trying to provide as much information to you as possible. It goes to my quote that will be on my tombstone is, "When in judgment, turn to wonder." Please come to me and ask questions. I will try to give you information ahead of time as well, the best I can. But I plead for you to please come and talk to me, and so we can talk through some different questions that you may have. This is something that Glen Lake is dealing with right now, is these positions and these funding. It is not equal, but it is equitable. And so that's something that we are trying to navigate as a building and a community. And it's going to be a challenge to continue to navigate. And I am willing to connect and work through that challenge with all of us together, because it's new, it's different. It takes education, it takes information, and that comes all so rapidly, and it's so dense. So it's something that we will continue to work through together. So I hope that provides us a little bit of context regarding those positions. I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow morning, and we can talk about some of those other topics that maybe are a little bit heavier, that ones that we will address together. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.